Okay, I guess the reading is from James chapter 1, verses 17 through 27. Mine looked a lot less than this, so. Okay. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. In fulfillment of his own purpose, he gave us birth by the word of truth, so that he would become a kind of first fruits of his creatures. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and going away, immediately forget what they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God, the Father, is this: to care for the orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Sorry. Here ends the reading.
Well done. Our gospel reading today comes from the gospel according to Mark, the 7th chapter. Now, when the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around him, they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they thoroughly wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of their elders. And they do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it. And there are also many other traditions that they observe: the washing of cups, pots, and bronze kettles. So the Pharisees and scribes asked him, "Why do your disciples not live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" Jesus said to them, "Isaiah prophesied rightly about the hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandon the commandment of God and hold to human tradition.' Then he called the crowd again and said to them, 'Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, folly. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person.'" God add blessings to the reading and the hearing of God's holy word. Our first confusing text is actually from the letter of James, which we don't hear from very often. James is a key leader in the church at Jerusalem. He's a brother of Jesus. And most scholars will tell us that the assumption is James himself probably did not write this letter. In the ancient world, it was quite common for someone else to write a letter, a note, a commentary, and sign it according to a particular name that people would recognize. And the practice was quite common. And yet it was always with the intent that what is written and shared would echo the voice of the individual whose name has been attached to it. And so in this case, we have the leader of the Church of Jerusalem listing a long string of things that come out of living the Christian life. There's a key phrase in there that comes out. James tells the people there, be doers of the word, and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. How often do we hear things, intellectually take it in, understand it up here, and yet never act upon it? There's a distinction between superficially hearing or reading versus deep hearing, deep reading, where we dig between the lines, where we seek understanding and wisdom. At first glance, James' letter may not sound like it has a lot to do with the gospel reading from Mark. Yet I think we find an overlap here as we dig deeper into these two texts. Mark's gospel, we find the Pharisees and some of the scribes confronting Jesus. Sort of the typical story we hear lots and lots of times. And they bring up the issue that part of his disciples, the setting is essentially, you look at the bulletin cover, the disciples, it's a Sabbath day. It's the holy day. And they're out in the field, and they're breaking off the grains of wheat from a crop. And Pharisees see this and they become upset because they haven't properly voiced, they haven't voiced the grains. A whole string of the minutiae of the law. And Jesus responds, it's not what we take in. It's what comes out that actually defiles us or not. Jesus proclaims the externals are not the problem. It's what comes out of our heart, our inner spirit, that truly defiles or not. Jesus goes on to list a string of negative things that can come out from within us. And yet, if we think about it, just as we talked about two sides of the coin, if there are negatives that come out of us, it's also where the positives come from. This is part of that paradox of opposites. One coin, two sides, constantly connected, which we cannot split apart. Jesus says in Matthew's Gospel, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me." Jesus is telling us the same thing James has stated earlier. It's doing the word. Be doers of the word. And one of the things that doing the word means is doing service from the heart. Think about it. If the heart is the true source of negatives and positives, then it equals the true source of genuine service. Not self-serving actions, but true service to others. In the ancient world, the heart was considered the seat of the soul. It was the core of the individual. Just as Jesus tells us, this is where good and evil come out of us. It's the source that enables and empowers us to take care of others, to live a truly Christian life. So what do we do? How do we do things that develop the heart so that it releases the positives, so that it brings forth the good things that are within us? One of the things that has been highlighted in recent years is a thing called heart resonance. And it's where we equalize part of the brain waves and the rhythm of the heart. Greg Braden, his background is a trained geologist and computer science person, but over the past decade or so has really taken those learnings and applies them to spiritual development. He writes in one of his observations, the single eye of the heart, the state of harmony that we create for ourselves in heart and brain coherence, accesses what's true for us in the moment of a given situation. Rather than thinking through a list of pros and cons, or weighing out the probability that an experience of the past will repeat itself in the present, our heart intelligence knows instantly what's true for us in the moment. One of the surprising and amazing things of the age that we live in is the constant leaping forward in technology. And there's actually several companies that produce technical gadgets that can help us create this kind of heart and brain resonance, bring it in balance so that they work together, strengthening the heart and allowing us to work and to act out of that. A company called HeartMath literally has an app you can put on your phone, you plug in the wired device, you can clip to your ear, clip to your finger, and it will show you a graph of when the heart comes to a level balance instead of bouncing all over the place, which is part of where the dissonance between brain and heart comes from. There are other companies doing similar things. We live in an amazing age if you want to grow your spirit. And it's not just for the individual development. There's a thing known in science at this time as the Maharishi effect. And it's named after the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the great Hindu yogi that came popularized by the Beatles, founder of the Transcendental Meditation program. And over the past 40 years, there have been numerous studies, not just anecdotal observations, actual peer-reviewed scientific research, all of which indicate that when larger groups of people come into that kind of resonance that's found in meditation, there's a ripple effect that goes out into and through the community. How you serve may not be the same as the way I serve, because there are multiple ways. But we can all serve. And when we bring forth the positives from within, transformations take place in our world. James tells us, be doers of the word, not merely hearers who deceive themselves. When we open our hearts and project the positives from within, we serve the whole world throughout whatever our various capacities may be. Amen.